Oh, my background went away, but I'll put that back up in a second. But before we do that, you get to see like the real world cat toys and everything. Well, before I actually stumble into things, I want to say welcome to everyone to the MakerCast. This is the official podcast for the Fandom Foundry, all about talking to creators, why they create, and why they continue to make the things that we love. I am joined by Jedi Sean Nias. Sean, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited to talk to Richard. We've got a person who's done books plus documentaries. Super excited. Richard, thank you again for joining us.
No problem. It's always a delight when people are interested in my work and want to talk to me about it.
Yeah, so that person, if you're listening to the podcast, let's introduce him. Richard Moss, he is our guest tonight. He is there's a lot of titles in your name, Richard. You're a director, you're a writer, you're a producer, apparently a sports fan. And if you listen to his voice a little more, you'll understand that he's not Minnesotan, he's Australian. Richard, thank you so much for joining us. People may know you best from some of your video game documentaries, including FPS, first person shooter, and also TerrorBytes. So without further ado, Richard, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. Yeah, and perhaps some people might also know me from my books, which anyone seeing the video, you'll be able to see about there, above my head, if I can do that correctly. The Secret History of Mech Gaming, and right next to that is a book I wrote about soccer video games that's like 600 pages long, because I love soccer, and I've grown up, like my whole life I've been playing these games. So I made a deal with Bitmap. The Sam Dyer from Bitmap happens to be a big fan of football as well. Sorry for any Americans confused. This is what football is to the rest of the world. And I got to spend several months doing this sort of dream project, digging into hundreds of different games and doing some interviews. It was a really cool thing to have. And
I know, Todd, I'm going on a tangent because I love soccer video games. What was the most interesting interview around the soccer video game genre? Because it's huge.
Yeah. So I didn't get to do as many interviews as I would have loved because of it's sort of a more coffee table style book. So we're going into each page spread has like one game or two games. Really big games will get like 4 pages of text about it, and that's a little kind of potted history and some analysis from me. But at the back of the book, we've got, I think, 13 interviews, and I went pretty long form with these interviews. I had to cut them down actually to even fit them in, because I talked to each person for about 2 hours.
Wow.
And the most interesting one, that's actually a hard one, because to me they're all fascinating in different ways. Let me think.
I'm just going through the pictures for everyone. I'm showing the book in the background. So watch the YouTube video. It's amazing.
And we can pivot. What genre of the game did you like then? Because it evolved huge as a fan of soccer games.
Football Manager. Yeah.
I mean, it was huge.
Games, yeah.
I mean, they evolved. I even today play, whether it's EA football or whatnot. What is your sort of go-to based on the book that you wrote?
Well, my favorite series was always the Pro Evolution Soccer series from Konami.
Yep.
Winning 11 if you're in certain parts of the world. That they kind of eventually decided to unify the title, and then they ditched it completely and changed it to eFootball. But Pro Evolution Soccer 5, which I think is winning 11-9, that one is my favorite. I love like the 2D 8-bit, 16-bit games as well. There's heaps there that I adore, and I found some new ones that I didn't know about in the course of writing the book. But for me, that was sort of the pinnacle of the genre, was in that game, and particularly the Korean version of that game, because what was happening was that Konami in those days, they would put out 4 or 5 different versions of the game in different regions around the world. So they'd start with I think Japan or Europe first, and then they do every few months they put out another region, and they're continuing to develop the game during that time. They're refining things, they're tweaking the balance, trying to get those numbers to feel just right, so that when you're holding the controller, you have an incredible game. And the Korean one is the last one. So by the time you get to the Korean version, they've ironed out all the kinks. They've figured out how to get the feel of the game just right for what they wanted to do that year. And so Liveware Evolution, I think is what they call it. It's really good. There are fan translation patches that you can download, and if you have a modded PS2 or any of these new little gadgets that you can plug in that give you the effect of a modded PS2 without actually modding it, you can play it on there, or you can get the PC version. If your computer can handle something that old, you can get the PC version, and there are heaps of fan patches that don't just change the language, but also adding in other features and tweaking the balance more. It's you just can keep going down deeper, and a really cool game. It feels like football to me more than any other football game I've played.
I do have one comment, and then we'll move on to something else. The first soccer game I ever played was on the Commodore 64. Actually, it was 128, and it had basically a rally song at the beginning. And for me as a kid on the Commodore 128, hearing that, I'm like, they can make sound. So I thought that was pretty cool. Was not very good at the game, but it was kind of one of those throwbacks. So, well, thank you very much. That's really cool. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about your documentaries, your books, and kind of there'll be a common thread that you'll hear, that they're basically a lot about the history and evolution of gaming in various different ways, formats, platforms, which is great, because the video games need so much more documentation than they have today. As myself, I used to watch a lot of G4 Tech TV, and they had a series called G4 Icons. And that was just great to get a little snapshot, 30 minutes long, of something specific. And the fact that we're getting more of these documentaries, basically the Nintendo Tetris story, that was a movie on Apple TV Plus. I think we need more of these things. So it's amazing. And we're going to get all into this. So let's get into kind of, the genesis of all this, Richard. Understanding very talented person. You have a really great style, a really great direction in these documentaries I've watched. But what made you choose to go down this path? And I mean, I can't imagine it was easy. Not one, just basically trying to pitch an idea, but also get it made, find all of these people. And, the process just sounds crazy. So what got you kicked off from hey, this seems cool, to I'm actually doing it?
And to making it top notch. Because, this wasn't just thrown together. The theatrics, the cinematography, everything was wonderful. So how did you get it, pitch it, get it going? I mean, it's amazing.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll give you a very brief run-in to how I got to the point of doing the documentary. And so, about 15 years ago, I was finishing university. I didn't really know what I was going to do after that in my final year. And I had a thought that I might want to go into game design. So I was doing some exercises I got out of a book for thinking about games more deeply, analyzing them. And that got me writing more. And I'd always liked writing and been a good writer. And I sort of fell in love with writing more deeply through that process, and started doing some stuff online, landed freelance work, first article was actually about a 6,000 word history of adventure games for Ars Technica, which I still think is insane that was my first piece. and from there, I wasn't able to get traditional employment, so I just kept freelancing, and eventually did my first book, The Secret History of Mac Gaming, which is just based on my own passion and love for the classic Mac games, and feeling like, well, now it needs to finally get its moment in the sun. It's been overlooked too much. And then I did another book called Shareware Heroes. And around that time, I got contacted by a guy called Robin Block. And he is he's the head of Creative EC, this company that makes documentaries. So at that point, they were doing their second In Search of Darkness, I think it was. This is about 5 years ago. And he told me that they're working on this first-person shooter documentary, and he wants to talk to me. And that's about all he told me. And so we set up a meeting, and I don't know what I'm doing there. Is he sort of screening me to see if I'm suitable as some on-camera talent to be a talking head for this documentary? Has he got some other thing in mind? And we're chatting, and he's telling me about what they do, and we've got a bit of back and forth, and then he pitches me on writing it, and I was shocked because I'd been doing podcast documentaries as a side project, a hobby, serious hobby. I had designs on maybe doing it professionally one day, like actually earning more than a couple $100 a month and doing it as my job at this show called The Life and Times of Video Games, a podcast documentary series. And he thought that stuff, plus my journalism background, made me someone who'd be really well suited to doing documentaries. And they needed a writer for this project that they were doing on first-person shooters. And so I rewrote their synopsis. They had a really basic synopsis. I rewrote that and signed on to be a writer and producer on the project. Shortly after that, we brought in David Craddock, who's another writer that I know, who is a proper first-person shooter expert, really deep knowledge of the genre. And we eventually decided that David would direct along with our editor, Chris Stratton, co-directors, and I would help David with writing and production. So then we made this thing. It's 4.5 hours long. We got 48. We ended up with 48 interviews.
Wow.
And some first-person shooter royalty in there. We had the whole original id Software team, the two Johns, Romero and Carmack. We had Tom Hall, Adrian Carmack, no relation to John.
I was wondering about that. Like, Carmack, that guy, he's like, points out, like, is he just joking that he's not related to it? Yes, he wasn't. Coincidental.
It's this weird coincidence that they happen to have the same last name. And lots of other people. In the trailer, anyone seeing the video, there was just Greg Thompson who showed up. He co-created the very first-person shooter, Maze, back in 1973. Which it was so cool that we got to talk to him and Dave Lebling, who was another one of the co-creators of that game. And so we went right back to the beginning. But then in the documentary, we focused more on the 90s golden age.
Richard, can I just stop you right there? Because I think that is when we talk about your approach, because I think your projects all have a different approach. FPS was 4 hours long, and I love how the fact that you would like show this, basically a square of all of these different games, and you would pan into it. And it's like, oh, we're going to talk about this game I've never even heard of before. And how amazing you follow this just like we started in 1960, 70 something with this. And then, and then we went to, Battlezone got introduced and all these different touch points. And it's like how it all evolved. And then hearing obviously its story with, starting off with Commander Keen and then going from that. And just those stories are amazing. And it's like, I don't even know, how do you get these people? How do you reach out? I mean, that's a lot of brain trust, a lot of schedules. I mean, do you just have people that have a lot of dirt on people?
So So on FPS, David Craddock and I had a lot of contacts that just from the work that we've been doing as freelancers and authors, we had a lot of contacts with these people. And we also, when we did the first campaign, so Creative VC does crowdfunded documentaries, which might surprise you if you look at how high quality they are, but everything is fan funded. And back in those days, we were going Kickstarter to fund production, and then Indiegogo to fund post-production. And then we'd go onto our own platform to do like a final pre-sale. You can get your name in the credits, and it's last chance to be guaranteed that you'll be able to get a physical copy. Because after that, if we happen to run out, we might not do another print run. So back in those days, we're doing 3 campaigns. And the first campaign for FPS, we had a couple of very experienced PR people helping us. And they had some contacts as well. So they got us ins with some of the Bungie people, for instance, because they're close to those guys. Now, I knew a couple of Bungie people from my book because Bungie started out as a Mac gaming company, of course. But these two, they got us access to people at the top of Bungie and some other folks who are really hard to get in touch with nowadays. So they got us some nice ins, and sort of the combination of them plus David having written about id Software extensively meant that we managed to get John Carmack, who rarely gives interviews. So that was really cool. And David and I happened to just both know John Romero, so he was easy to get. Poor John had like a 6-hour interview with David. It was a marathon.
Richard, I got to become best friends with you, man.
Wow.
Holy
no
cow.
people.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how we got people on FPS. On TerrorBytes, I didn't have as many contacts that we could lean on, but we managed to get 51 people actually for TerrorBytes, so more people.
Yep.
And so if I didn't know someone, then it was just either me or producer Daniel Richardson looking them up and trying to figure out a way to contact them, which might be that we are like tracking down an email address. It might be we're asking someone else to put us in touch with them, or we're going through a PR channel if we have to. We sort of try to avoid that because PR people can be difficult. They want to manage everything, and we want open, authentic conversations. We don't want interference from PR folks.
Right.
If we have to, we can contact them publicly via social media. Hey, we want to get in touch with you. We can send LinkedIn messages. You can do all sorts of crazy things to try and get someone.
I wondered that's how I might have gotten a hold of you, Richard. I threw anything at the wall and say, I'd like to talk to you. So I'm glad it worked.
We're really happy.
I try and make myself pretty easy to get in contact with, but some of these guys are very, very hard. Intentionally so, because they're so high profile. They get people trying to contact them all the time, and it's annoying, or they value their privacy, and they don't want to be bugged constantly by fans. So some of them are quite hard to get onto.
Yeah, and I noticed that it wasn't just, people from one country. You had people from all over the world. You had some amazing Japanese creators like Squiri, who obviously is like call him the David Lynch, if you want, I guess, of gaming. Yeah. Then you had Akira Yomoko, and I'm just showing it. I'm probably killing the name, but just their amazing takes on gaming from an Asian perspective too, which was a big part of it. Like, how did it evolve and all those things? Pretty amazing, I think. And if you go to the website, by all means, it's got a laundry list of some of the best creators. All this, not only do you have creators, but you also had people that did research on video games. You had some celebrities in the mix, which was kind of crazy, which was great to see a certain lead singer of a certain band involved, and which was surprising. Like, oh, that is an amazing, get to get some of these cool people that just love games and get involved.
Yeah, it's getting a rock star was just really cool. That's a lucky thing from being the gaming side of a company that's doing very successful documentaries about horror movies and sci-fi movies. So Creative VC, that they have pretty good reputation now and reach, and so they're able to get in touch with some of these folks, and it's not something that you expect. Like, so the editor on TerrorBytes, a guy called Connor, he's also from Melbourne, Australia. He is a huge metal fan, and when we were finishing TerrorBytes, he actually went to a music festival and saw on stage and a performance from Slipknot, and he's like, oh, I edited the film you're in. He's getting really excited that he's like, I'm seeing you. I've just been editing you.
That's amazing.
So it completely made his year, probably, to have to been able to edit something that had Corey from Slipknot in it.
Yeah, and you had creators from all different eras, which was great. And just the way this TerrorBytes was lined out differently. You tackled kind of every episode was definitely a different theme or a genre or a take, and I really enjoyed that. Just from survival horror to then it was like the licenses that are awesome, because you realize like it's hard to get licenses. What can you do? There's a lot of interference. And so some of the conversations involved with like Clive Barker talking about, how did this get in my game? Why is the main character of my game a woman in a bikini? And John Carpenter saying, hey, they just pay me and they wanted to have me, The Thing be a game. I just thought it was, yeah. So did you choose, like, say, this is how I'd like to, really learn about the hobby or talk about the hobby and the genres, is kind of parse it into different areas?
It was a collaborative thing between me and Dan, the producer. So the concept for TerrorBytes started with Dan. He is a massive horror nerd, all kinds of horror. He's like encyclopedic knowledge of horror across all different media forms. And he had done a little bit of work with Creative VC, and he knew Robin, and he basically pitched Robin, let's do In Search of Darkness, but for video games. And Robin's like, wait, there's horror games that are big enough? Robin's not that big of a gamer. So he didn't know that there was a big world of horror in games. And so Dan's like, oh, yeah, and started working on concepts. And Robin pulled me in. So we were finishing FPS. Robin wanted to get me onto another project. So he pulled me into these discussions. And I was like, oh, that's such an interesting idea, because instead of looking at a mechanical genre, like first-person shooters, where everything derives from this idea of moving through space and shooting at things, horror is a thematic genre. It encompasses everything and anything. It only needs something to create a tension that is offset, make you really uncomfortable. That's all horror is really about. It's creating a sense of fear or terror or a discomfort in you.
Yep. Can you talk about how it integrates into the development of the main character, where you've always got a character and there is terror around it? How does that get balanced in video games?
Well, in the big thing the big difference between video games and film regarding horror is that in video games it's happening to you.
Yep.
You are controlling the character. So in a movie, you see this character on the screen, and you relate to them because that's another human on the screen, and you're like, oh no, something bad is about to happen to them, and you might scream at them to run if you get really into it, but that's happening to them. In a video game, you're controlling the character. It's happening to you. So you are embodying that character, and so it all comes down to making you feel off balance. Like you're not sure what's around the corner. You don't want to walk down that corridor because it's actually you who's saying you're going to go down that corridor. You are steering them, and you're going to hesitate. Or you are spinning around constantly because you think something's behind you. There are lots of different ways that the game developers can go about creating horror moments in games, but it all comes down to basically creating an environment or a situation in which you as a player are uncomfortable, and then doing something that surprises you to increase that discomfort. That's kind of the root of it, and then so you'll get scared. You might jump, and then they'll ease off a bit. They'll make you relax a bit, and then they'll hit you again, and that's the roller coaster ride they take you on.
One question for you for the end is, what's the one game that surprised you the most when we're at the end of this time with you? Thank you so much. And where do you think it's going in terms of that type of gaming? I just wanted to plant those seeds so you had time to think about it.
All right.
we will see where it goes. So yes, one of the things I think that we saw with the review of this is how even in the past, when we had games that had very limited technology, they were able to do certain things to really make things scary. I mean, some of the early graphics, I remember it was Friday the 13th, the NES game, that still spooked you, which was kind of crazy considering it didn't seem that way, but they did some things to surprise you. And then I think with Resident Evil and the survival horror genre, it's more about like limiting your resources, feeling like you're not overpowered. And then we had other games that, what was it, Doki Doki Literature Club? That game is very famous for just looking like a visual novel, and then it goes down a dark path and you're not ready for it. So I think there's so many different ways to scare you in an interactive way that I'm glad you covered so much of it from an indie perspective. And it's pretty amazing that you get to tell the story. So with that, Richard, is there, you said 50 subjects to interview. How do you boil that down to then 5.5, 6 hours?
Yeah. That was a lot of work. So we had a bit over 100 hours worth of interview footage across those 51 interviews. And so it was the last 3 or 4 interviews came in really late. Like we even did 2 interviews at the last minute just to sort of fill in gaps in the story. The game's researcher in the documentary, who is fantastic. She's a friend of Dan's. So,
of course.
And so he knew that she would be amazing. And she's credible because she's doing PhD on horror in games. So great, let's get her in. Let's sort of feed her a little bit the direction that we want to go in with this bit, and then see what she has to say. And each time she says something fantastic. Or in a few places, we sort of like, okay, we want you to say something like this. We think you'll agree with this, and then you can tweak it to your own words slightly if you want. But here's what we want. It's got to be like 10 seconds that's filling this gap here, and it's creating connection between A and B, because we don't have a good thread connecting these two ideas right now. So she was great. But as for the rest of it, it was a long process. And it kind of started way before we did the interviews. So Dan had come up with the concept I mentioned earlier, and it was a bit of back and forth between him and me that had us land on this idea of 5 episodes, and each episode is a theme. So the first episode, survival horror, then licenses, then sort of FMV and interactive movies, and how horror and games can play with that idea. Then indies for the 4th episode, and the 5th episode we called Cursed and Controversial. It's sort of about taboo in horror games. And so using that as a foundation, I thought about what ideas do we want to explore in each episode? And of course, what games are we going to cover? Because in these documentaries, we go game by game, and then we mix in these sort of topical discussions along the way. Like first episode has a segment about sound design in horror games. So I spent a long time thinking about this and coming up with ideas and bouncing them off of Dan. And then that fed into the questions we asked in interviews to try and make sure that we're going to get interesting things getting talked about. And then based on the interviews, made some adjustments to what we were going to cover. A couple of segments that I had in mind went, nah, that's not going to work. A couple of new ideas came along. Some games that we'd planned to cover, we weren't able to cover because we couldn't get the interview. Some stuff we had not planned to cover, suddenly we're like, we should cover this because we got amazing material in an interview about the game from someone we were actually talking to about something else. They happen to also work on this game or have really good insight about something like I just blanked on I had it in my head and then I blanked on the name of it. Anyway, there's a game in episode 4 that I had not planned on covering, but put in just because we got such good material talking about it.
It's kind of that's the joy of doing this, right? You don't know what your greatest parts will be because people will bring up things you don't don't expect. And as I was watching it, I'm like, oh, there's Clive Barker's Undying. I bet they're going to talk about. No, it moved over to another game. I'm like, that's not fair, because everybody has a touchstone game or something that they played that they're like, oh, doesn't everybody know about that game? But not everybody does. So, and to your point, you might love a game, but is there enough good stuff to really get some good sound bites and get some good footage? Can you even, and that's sort of thing, how did you get the footage approved of all of these assets and things? Is that something that, because a lot of these games, the whoever owns them is often a mystery.
Yeah, well, I can finish the rest of the story, the other thing, but to answer that first, that's quite simple because in America you have fair use law. And fair use is quite permissive when using material in a transformative way for the purposes of research or documentary. So we put in what we want to put in, and then we consult with an IP lawyer, and they say whether, in their professional opinion, something is fair use. If they think we've used too much footage, we've let something run too long, they say cut it down a bit. Take a few seconds out. This feels extraneous. You need to replace some of this with something else. Cut back to the interview, maybe. And so that's actually quite straightforward, just very time-consuming. And expensive, of course, to consult a high-profile lawyer about a multi-hour documentary. And we have so much material and so many edits are done. But so to just go back and finish answering the other question, about how I put these stories together. So I take all that interview material, and then what I do is quite visual. I dump it all on a digital whiteboard. I use something called Millernote, but there are other things similar to it that people can use. So I have this like digital wall, and it's completely covered in quotes from interviews that I've pulled out as everything that I think is relevant to what we're doing in this segment. So if it's a game, it's just every time somebody in any of these 51 interviews is talking about that game. Or if it's more thematic, topical discussion, I look through and I try and find everything that I think will be relevant to what we're going to discuss here. And sometimes when I'm halfway through, I'm like, oh, there's another idea here. I need to pull in more material. And so I plaster all these little sort of digital sticky notes on the board, and I start dragging them around. And through that, I start assembling a narrative in my head. So it's all about synthesizing the information on the flow, recognizing the patterns, and turning them into a story. That is a linear story that can just go down the left side of my page. And that's the first pass of writing it. And then it's just iterating from there, looking at it, sharing it with my team, getting their thoughts, making some adjustments, getting our editor Connor to do just a really basic assembly cut, just pop all the interview footage of these people roughly in a timeline and see how it flows. No B-roll, no fancy transitions, people getting cut off mid-sentence, whatever. It's just about hearing it and seeing it. And then from that shows us whether something's working or not, and we can keep iterating from there. And he will contribute sometimes to that writing process because he's a creative himself. So he might go, when he's editing, I think actually these two lines will be better switched around, or that thing you got at the end, maybe we move that to the middle. And I was like, you go for it, you try things. This is a collaborative process. I'm not going to dictate the way it should be. And he would come back often with a brilliant idea. When he wanted to make changes, it was usually for the better. And I hardly told him, no, can we put it back? It's nearly always yes. And sometimes yes, and let's take your idea and then we'll tweak it some more because you've just opened my mind to a better way to do this. And so it's a really cool collaborative process. And Dan, our producer, keeps feeding in as well with ideas and knowledge. Like I said, he has this encyclopedic knowledge. He is the reason why when you're watching TerrorBytes, you keep seeing B-roll footage of games that are not being specifically talked about, that are super relevant to what people are saying. Because he's just going, that sounds like this game. That sounds like this game. I know we can put this thing in, and it's amazing to have on a project like that. That's really exciting to see what's happening, because even in video games, there's been some amazing collections now that are out, like the Mortal Kombat Ultimate Collection. There's a great, it's an amazing kind of a merger of karateka, but it's not just the game, it's also then the documentary and all the stories from Jordan Mechner and the footage that he worked with his dad. And it's kind of like, even though the old Atari games is an Atari 50 collection, it's like the creators will be talking about the game and then you can just go in and play the game. So it's amazing to have these stories said. And like to your point that it sounds like Dan was like, I played too many games, but now my knowledge is going to come into play because I can show you this footage that makes it come to life what they're talking about. So that's amazing collaboration.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. It was a sort of a dream team to work with. I'd never known these guys before, but I would work with them again in a heartbeat, and am working with Dan right now on the next project, which we'll talk about at some point. And hopefully Connor will be able to join us as well to edit again, because we had a really good working relationship, and you don't get that a lot. That's a special thing.
Absolutely. One more question specifically on TerrorBytes, but also could hit on first-person shooter was amazing list of guests. You talked about 40, 50, total between that, like 90 people, interview subjects. Was there anyone that you wanted to get that you just couldn't? Like schedules, availability, they've left the industry. Obviously, people are getting older now too. So you're like, are they still around? Any specific, wish I could, or maybe future opportunities?
Yeah, there are a whole bunch. So I remember on FPS, we reached out to Ken Levine, best known for BioShock, and he was sort of vaguely interested, but he told David, "I don't have time right now," and we left BioShock out because we didn't have anyone to say anything interesting about it, and we had too many games to cover anyway. We couldn't fit everything into that film, and there were some others that they dropped out, or we just couldn't get in touch with them, or they weren't available. TerrorBytes is a similar thing. There are people who we tried to contact and couldn't. Then there are people who we got in touch with, and they might have been interested, but they couldn't commit, or they weren't available when we are going to be doing things. So Sam Lake of Remedy, he was on leave. He was taking a sabbatical, and then we were finishing up production. So we're like, it's going to be too hard to go back and say, "Hey, are you still interested? Can you join us?" And see if we can make that work. It was too hard. We didn't think it was worth the trouble. We already had a really good film. We were very deep into it. Every episode was almost done at that point. Hideo Kojima, we were all ready to make edits to just fit him in because it's Kojima. You know, you just,
really?
You make him fit if it's Kojima.
Oh, yes. Holy cow, really?
Yeah, Dan had conversations with his people, with Kojima's people.
Wow.
But for whatever reason, we were told he's not going to be available. So that was a disappointment. But hey, we got in touch, so that was awesome. And the other big one, really big one that we almost got was Shinji Mikami. And he was too busy with work that he's doing, and so schedules didn't align, and we weren't able to get him.
That's sometimes not a bad thing that they're busy, because that means that they're making awesome stuff still today, and that initial contact might lead to something when they're less busy down the road.
I'm just going to say, I'm like E9 way from Kevin Bacon through Richard.
That's true.
Where we may have had a contact.
6 degrees. That's right. The 6 degrees.
Richard.
You never know.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, just reach out to Richard. Apparently, he knows everybody now.
He knows everybody.
Yeah, he's the human Rolodex. And everybody said, Rolodex, what's that? We just aged ourselves 80 years. So that makes me think, like, when you said, as you were going through this process, obviously it's filming interviews, it's then editing, all of those things. Were all the interviews in person, or did they have to be in person, or did you like, we'll do it however we can, considering you're in Australia? How do you get those connections, especially when you're talking to people all across the globe?
So we work with local camera operators. It costs too much money to send someone around, traveling all around the world. So because we're fan funded, we try and maximize our use of the budgets. And that means hiring local crews and calling in remotely using that crew. So the local crew goes and travels to meet the contributor at their home or at a place that we have hired or some other neutral venue. And they film it while we are on an iPad or a laptop around the world or across the country, depending on where the person is. And we are interviewing them over a screen, similar to what you guys are doing with me right now. We do the same thing, except the person that we're interviewing has a professional camera crew also in the room with them, shooting a much nicer version of what we're discussing.
Amazing.
Yep. Oh, that's great. It's great to see that we're in a world now where we're not limited by those things. We can reach out internationally. I know old documentaries, like, they had to be there because it's not like you can just send I guess you could send a film reel back across the waters and go and do it that way. But so in regards to your documentaries, I know we're going to talk about one of your news project, we want you to talk about then, but we want to do it right before your, we want people to get excited about that one because obviously it's new. You can't talk about it. We'll just put that towards the end when we ask you what you're up to. But then I think we should pivot to your books, because it sounds like a lot of that had to be, those are like passion projects. So let's go through your books really quickly, and then tell us a little bit about them. What chose you to go down those paths? With a book, obviously more writing involved, maybe not, I don't know, compared to writing interviews and doing that thing, but also then having a little bit more luxury of the type of stories you tell, because your budget's a little less limited than filming. So what book would you like to start with? And we can talk about those, because you've got quite a few and they all have a different theme.
Yeah. Shall we go in order? I guess
Absolutely.
It makes sense to do them in order of publication.
Absolutely.
So the first one was The Secret History of Mac Gaming, the book that's prominently on display above me. If anyone's seeing the video, it's got the beautiful illustrated cover of a Macintosh Plus. Really, really nice work there by a pixel artist, JJ Signal, who's done some pixel art for video games as well. Really, really happy with that. Still years later, it's a highlight. Is having that up on my bookshelves on display.
Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how to talk about this project. But if there's a question you want to ask to prompt me in a certain direction, go ahead.
Sure. So Mac gaming obviously is one of those weird platforms that now Mac gaming is not a thing, but I remember back in the day, they were pretty much getting the same titles as, Commodore 64, personal PCs, IBM junior PCs, things like that. So there was more parity. The technology was a little bit more limited, but each platform had their own, sound chips. Were very monochrome. Obviously, Apple and Mac, typically there were one unit altogether. They come with a floppy. So in regards to Mac, I know especially across the oceans, you didn't always have the same. We didn't always have the same devices. So for you and Mac gaming, was that kind of a hallmark to your gaming journey?
Yeah. So when I was actually, I think before I was born, my dad bought a Mac Plus. Very expensive in those days, many thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big investment to buy then, but it was useful to his business, so he was able to justify it as something for work and for play. And so he bought this Mac Plus, and it's the first computer I used. I have a memory of being 3 or 4 years old and getting distracted while I'm watching a cartoon, like something like Captain Planet, or there's this British show called Banana Man. If you're seeing the screen there, there's a shot of each of them. And yeah, being distracted by my brother starting up a game. And that was a port actually of an Atari game called Alternate Reality, The City. It's a computer role-playing game set in this alien city. It's a weird, extremely ambitious game that had weather effects and like this whole simulation going on under the hood of life in this city, even though it was a 1980s technology of like walking around in first person, screen by screen. And I thought it was captivating. And that sort of started the love affair for me with computer games. And I grew up playing lots of black and white Mac games on that Mac Plus, and then years later finally getting a color Mac and playing stuff on there too. Really fond memories of things like this paper airplane game called Glider. Dark Castle was an early platform game that people who pay attention to consoles might know about. The infamous Sega Genesis port, which is horrendous. It's one of the worst games ever. But the Mac original was a really good game, and it was celebrated in its time. It's really frustrating to play, but most games were back in those days, so we shouldn't hold that against it. And I remember games being imaginative in that era, very, very imaginative, often gorgeous to look at, made creative use of a mouse-based interface, quite high resolution, and just lots of really cool games, many of them being Mac only or Mac original. And as I grew up, I realized that the Mac had a reputation as not being a gaming platform, and people making fun of the Mac as a gaming platform. And I was like, why do you feel that way? And Myst was a Mac game. It was made in HyperCard. HyperCard defined what Myst is. And Myst was a massive game. It's the most popular game in the world for years. I remember Dark Castle, as I said. There were these really cool games, and Marathon from Bungie. And so why does it have this reputation? Why do people keep joking about it? And I wrote an article. The article did pretty well. I got it in my head. I should do a book one day. And then a few years later, I was, screw it. I'm going to write a book. And so I started working on it as a capstone project for a Master of Journalism degree I was doing. And that was really useful because the lady running the course is a very experienced journalist, and she made sure that this book would be accessible to a general audience, that it wouldn't assume knowledge, and that came in very handy with setting the tone and the style of the book and turning it into the success that it's become long term, where it keeps selling even to people who weren't Mac gamers back in the day, just because it's an interesting story. Word keeps spreading, which is really cool. And so I was working on that book. I came up with a proposal, shopped it around a little bit to publishers, and one of them, Darren Wall from Read Only Memory, really cool British publisher of games books, they did this Sega Mega Drive collected works, officially licensed book, really good book. So I got in touch with Darren, and he said, well, I can't take this on, but maybe you should take it to this publisher, Unbound. They do this hybrid model where you get crowdfunded, and then once you've done crowdfunding, they cover the costs of production, they turn into a traditional publisher. They do traditional publisher things. They do editing, they do all the layout. They have people on staff to help with PR and marketing. They get books into actual bookstores, all of that. So there's a longer story there, but I did it. I did the book with Unbound. It did reasonably well. A couple of years later, I got the rights back, made a new deal with Bitmap Books. We did an expanded edition where we added some more material and revised some stuff, basically turning it into the book I had wanted it to be the first time around. And I did a second book with Unbound called Shareware Heroes, the renegades who redefined gaming at the dawn of the internet. I don't know if you have any more questions about the Mac gaming book before we launch into that.
So the MacBook, haha. With that book, it's currently, so the best place to get that is directly on the website that you have. You can order it through there. So with that, trying to think, is it hardbound? Is it the size of the books? I know some of these books are big and unwieldy, like when you get a lot of coffee books. Others are smaller, for more easy to read. How would you describe the book for people? Is it easy to get into? Is it a lot of, what type of format is it? Because you've already done the football game or football book, which is a lot of, it's a coffee table like that. So what should people look for in that book when if they want to go order it?
Yes, the Secret History of Mac Gaming, it's kind of halfway between a coffee table book and a normal hardcover book. So it's a bit bigger than a normal hardcover that's like just words. traditional mass market hardcover thing. It's a bit bigger than that, but it's still something that's comfortable to hold in your hands. It's quite heavy. It's about a kilo, I think.
Wow.
I'm sorry to people who don't know metric system. I don't know the weight conversion.
2.2 pounds.
There you go.
There you go.
So it's fairly substantial. It's quite thick. It's hundreds of pages. But it's comfortable to open up and read in your lap. Just don't try and lie in bed and hold it, or you'll end up hurting yourself.
There's a lot of omnibuses that are like that. Yeah. No, it's I'm showing
images.
Oh yeah, so I'm finally got to the right page. Takes us over to Bitmap Books, which also sells several of your other books, which is great because their website's amazing. I mean, just you do get a good feel of what the book you're getting. Just lots of great images, and even color. We got color, Richard. Wow, finally some color, which is great. But this is great. Yeah, the big graphics, the pages, the layout looks really, really intriguing. Which brings it all to life. So this is great. I think this is amazing. So I did play a lot of games as a kid on my friend's Apple IIe, Apple IIc. That was like the first computers we used in class to program with. So we spent many nights playing a lot of like King's Quest games and Karateka and games like that. And they did eventually have a joystick, but it wasn't the greatest in the world.
Yeah, I similarly, I played a lot of Apple II stuff at my primary school or elementary school. For people who don't know, we call them primary school here. A lot of lemonade stand on there. But then also they had a couple of Macs there, and I hardly ever used them because I'm like, I got one at home. I just played one at home. I'm going to play Lemonade instead on the Apple II. And it was interesting working on the book and seeing that while the Apple II was really known as a gaming platform, the Mac, Apple specifically steered it away from being perceived that way. Is that they didn't want it to be seen as a toy. They wanted it to be adopted by people in the business world. They wanted Fortune 1000 companies to do mass orders. And so they were like, yep. This computer that's really friendly to use, we don't want to emphasize that gaming aspect because then it'll be seen as a toy and those guys won't take us seriously. And yet, in spite of that, there were so many people who were inspired by the Mac itself, by the interface, by this desktop metaphor and being able to move a mouse around, because that was a new idea back then. Move a mouse around and drag windows and have pull-down menus at the top of your screen. They were inspired by all of that. And they made games that were innovative and brought new ideas. And that I felt from researching the book shaped a lot of what came after in PC gaming more generally. Despite the lower sales of the Mac, it had a big influence in what came next.
Absolutely. And there's a whole history of what was big in the US wasn't necessarily what was big overseas. In the UK, NES wasn't a big thing. It was more of their I think it's Amstrad, and then the Commodore 64 and Amiga. So it's always interesting, the platforms that become people's love. Somebody always knows somebody who had a Virtual Boy. Somebody always had the Commodore 128, which I did, which never had any games because it just played Commodore 64 games. So we all had those oddity systems, and it's always fun to be, see them getting love now today. So yeah, if you are interested in Mac's history and gaming, this is where it all went, and hopefully we'll see them come back. So let's move on to shareware, which was part of the first person shooter phenomenon, because a lot of us got a disc at a store that gave you the game in the first level for free, and then it's called shareware, and basically you passed it around, but then once you got hooked, you had to buy the rest of the game. So with shareware, it's an interesting business model that doesn't really exist today, but it kind of needed to exist to grow that gaming at a time.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say entirely that it doesn't exist today, because I think basically free to play, or the freemium model is sort of it's take the shareware idea and take coin-op arcades idea, combine them together, and turn them into the worst version of themselves, and you kind of have the predominant model that is plaguing software. And until very recently, where subscription seems to be taking over now, but the nickel and diming of freemium is sort of a bastardization of shareware plus coin ops. But back in the day, yes, it was a necessity for getting past this problem of distribution. How do you've made some software or you've made a game? How do you share it with people? One way is that you put it in a box or a Ziploc bag in those early days, and you sell it in a store. But that's not the only way you can get it out there. And nowadays we've got the internet. Back then you didn't really have the internet. There was some ways to get things via networks, but it was very primitive. You had like BBSs that you dial up into. You're basically calling someone, and you're over this really slow modem. You might be able to download a couple of files, or you might be hooked up to Usenet, the user's network, through a university or something.
Right.
But that's about it. So how do you get this stuff out there? And the model that emerged was basically that you put it on a floppy disk and you send it to people, and then however it is that they've acquired it, whether it's like you've said to your friends, send this to your friends and keep passing it on, keep copying it, copy that floppy, or they've managed to get it off a BBS or something, or they've bought it from a disk from a shareware library, like there are these catalogs you can get to. Somehow someone gets your program, and then they're like, I like this thing, I want to support the author. They would mail a check back to register the product.
Wow.
That's trust.
And that registration might come with some perks, like you get phone support, or you get a printed manual sent back to you, or you get updates sent to you in future, like floppy disks will be sent to you with updates on them, or if it's a game, there might be some extra levels or something that you can get for the registration. And that was sort of how this shareware model worked, or user-supported software, it also got called at the very beginning. And it had been around for several years when this guy, Scott Miller from Apogee, who created a company called Apogee Software, which you would later know as 3D Realms, for like Duke Nukem 3D, and lots of cool games. He had this idea. Maybe we can make shareware work better for games, because no one was really making much money doing shareware games. Maybe we can make it work better by not giving away the whole game. Instead of saying, here's the game, if you enjoy it, can you send me some money? Let's break it into 3 parts, and I'm going to give you 1 part, and if you enjoy it, you can buy the other 2 parts from me. And so people are incentivized now to actually send him money for something that is just for their enjoyment. It's fun, it's entertainment. People aren't naturally incentivized to pay for entertainment. If it's free, people will very often just move on to the next free thing. So that incentivized people. That was a very effective model. He made a lot of money. He quit his job.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's still today.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, and that inspired other people, like Epic Games. Tim Sweeney, he started up doing shareware, and he's a huge fan of Apogee, and he wanted to be like Scott Miller. And then id Software, they super famous for Doom, and Quake, and Wolfenstein 3D. They started doing shareware because Scott got in touch with them. They were working at a disc magazine, just like a magazine on a disc, a floppy disk that you subscribe to every month.
I love that. Yes.
Floppy disk, and it has some games on it. they were working at this disc magazine, and he sent them some letters pretending to be a fan to try to lure them into contacting him. And eventually John Romero got in touch, and he persuaded them to make a game for him. And they did Commander Keen. And so that launched id Software. They became a company doing shareware stuff. They did the first few games with Apogee, and then they went out on their own. And they kept doing shareware pretty much for the whole 90s. There's shareware editions of all their games in the 90s. And Doom, partly through being shareware, changed games completely. And because it was shareware, it was easy for people to come across it and be wowed by it, because it was like nothing that had ever come along before. And there's no barrier to entry or relative to the times, because anyone could get Doom. It had said to software vendors, sure, you can sell it in your store alongside all this commercial software. We don't care, as long as people know that they can come to us to get the whole game, the rest of the levels, then that's fine. You get it out there, distribute this thing, and people did. Doom got spread around everywhere, and that's how it changed the world.
It's amazing because
it was everywhere.
And I remember Jazz Jackrabbit was another title similar to that with Epic, and it was like, wow, they ended up making all the games within eventually Unreal Engine, and so it's amazing that these games got to start. I remember when I got my first CD-ROM for my computer, and they would have basically a lot of demos that would come on a disc, and then PlayStation would also then have their magazine with. So basically, it grew to something that people actually found a great way to market their games and also sell magazines. So it was interesting, created a whole industry of getting people. And now we have demos, right? We have demos, which is amazing.
Yeah, for the most part, demos grew out of shareware. It was that success that id Software in particular had with the shareware versions of their games that made big publishers sit up and take notice. And then they're not just going, oh, hey, we need to make a shooty bang bang game like these guys. They're also going, we should share demos of our stuff. But instead of giving you like 5 levels, which is kind of thing that was happening in shareware, they're more commercially minded. They're stingy. They're like, 1 level is enough. That's a taste. That'll show you enough to go and buy the game. And so the single level demo became predominant for years, until digital distribution kind of took over, and now it's much less common.
So that would then take us to your next book, which at this point, you've now written how many books, and are you feeling like, hey, this is for me? This is my career now. And I mean, because you've got to admit, with my wife, she's a published author, and success often doesn't come twice. So for yourself, you've had to feel pretty confident, like, I can make this, like you said, make this a career, do something there, and be able to probably be a little more choosy about the project you want to make. So then what was your process then to say, what's going to be my next book?
I try to be a little more careful and sort of sensible about it now, because I don't want to go back to freelancing, and it's very hard to find traditional jobs, like real work out there. It's quite hard to find these days. It's kind of a raffle unless you happen to know someone who knows someone who is looking for someone. So I really want to keep doing this. I want to be doing books and documentaries as my job. And so I have to, every project, try and pull myself back, my enthusiasm, and not just go, I'm excited about this idea, I'm going to do it. And be like, hang on, is there a market for that? Is this going to sell?
Yeah, absolutely.
And on the documentary side, I'm working with a company, so they're kind of doing that thinking for me, and they're making the decisions about how much risk are we going to take on, and how much audience testing are we going to do before we commit fully to this. But on the book side, it's just me getting into an idea and then either marching ahead with the plan to self-publish or marching ahead, and when I've gotten a decent chunk of it done, like a chapter, and I've got a really strong synopsis, pitching it to a publisher and hoping that one of them will buy it. Because if they don't, then I have to fall back on self-publishing, and it might be an idea that I don't think is suitable for self-publishing, depending on what it is. So the process is sort of evolving as I figure out how to be more choosy and how to hold myself back. But I am working on multiple book projects, having said that, some of which are more about passion and others are more commercially minded. And the roots of it every time is always an idea. It would be interesting to look at this, or I've written about something before and I'm like, what's the rest of the story there? I've done an article and I'm like, I sense that there's more to it. There's a book worth of material here. What's the rest of the story? Or in Shareware Heroes, actually the idea came from working on Secret History of Mac Gaming. I put a chapter in that book called Shareware Heroes about the shareware scene on the Mac. And I thought after that, well, what about the shareware scene across the board on all platforms, particularly on DOS, on PCs, because that's where the biggest stuff was happening. What if we did a whole book that's just looking at that? Because that's kind of indie gaming before there was indie gaming, and that's not been looked at much. I thought that'd be really interesting. And lots of other people agree with me that it's really interesting, but sadly it hasn't done commercially as well as I'd hoped, which I partly blame on the publisher, because Unbound's gone out of business now.
That's a tough
there's
one,
a reason
right?
For that.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. They were not running their operations very well, but that was passion, and I've not made back the time that I spent in money on that project yet. And so that was sort of a lesson that I need to think more carefully. If this is my job, if I'm doing this for a job, how do I make back my money? At least some project has to pay for all the stuff that doesn't make back the other money. I have to think about it in that way. But having said that, there's a lot of just uncertainty. And so one book that is coming up very, very soon, probably not announced by the time this goes out, because we just got a cover done, and it's doing paperback layout right now. I've done a book on Age of Empires, the first Age of Empires game.
That's amazing.
Really?
Yeah. I talked to most of the development team. This is one of those things that came from an article. I did an article about sort of an oral history of Age of Empires and its legacy. And I was talking to the guys and I thought, there's a book here. And I even told them at the time, one day I might come back and do a book on this. And then years later, I sent an email to them, hey, I'm doing a book now on this. I decided now's the time.
Richard? Yep. I'm buying it, bud. Yes.
So speaking of that, obviously there's probably I can't say, but I was just looking at the history of Age of Empires. Started in 1997, and then still obviously making games today. They've had some spin-offs with mythologies and that, and then with the publishers, the developers within that. I mean, I'm just looking at the list of developers. There's a ton, and then I believe now at this point, I believe they are owned by Microsoft, correct? The franchises.
Yes.
So there you go.
Yeah, so Microsoft bought Ensemble, the original developer. They bought Ensemble in 2000, I think, just shortly after Age of Empires 2. And then after Age 3, they kind of not exactly cancelled the series, but they pushed it down because PC games weren't a focus. The Xbox was the focus. And it was kind of in the doldrums the series for years after that before a lot of effort from a couple of people had led to the H2 HD edition, and then that, to Microsoft's surprise, sold really well, and that reinvigorated interest in the series, and that's why it's going so well now. It's because they had to be shown that there's still a huge fan base for these games. But the book is...
The inventor was Sid whatever, right?
No, Sid Meier did Civilization.
Yeah.
Co-designer on Civilization, Bruce Shelley, worked with Ensemble.
Okay.
So Bruce was kind of a...
so I did the number 2.
On that? Like,
I played number 2. And loved it. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this book. Holy cow. This is awesome.
So since you're going to focus on the beginning of the franchise, I assume there'll be a lot of people you're talking to that can really talk about what gaming was like in 1997, the project, the development, the platform. So that's going to be neat because it's kind of for you, I think of your history, this might be your newest entry into the world of video games, considering everything you've done has been kind of the golden age, I would say. So this is kind of neat to see it. I mean, obviously the football book you did is there, but I mean, it's amazing to see a series like Age of Empires now going on 30 years. So it's great to have something that's still alive and going from there. So obviously you said there's more to come out on this, but if people want to know where to look, any places they should specifically watch to hear more about this?
Yeah, well, you can follow me, or you can look at Boss Fight Books, as they will be announcing it as soon as it's ready. We're gonna, as all Boss Fight books go, there'll be a Kickstarter campaign because that's what they do to fund all their print runs, and this will be like the GoldenEye book. We'll have 2 different editions, and so I'm really excited about that. And we've got an amazing cover that I wish I could show you and talk about because we just signed off on it yesterday, and it's very, very cool. But
and Richard,
because I've not authorized to talk about that.
Richard, buddy, you're gonna hook me up with an auto, right?
Yeah, autographs for everyone. Do you do autographs?
Buddy.
Do you have certain editions that are autographed if people are interested in having your having it immortalized?
I don't sell autograph books, but I'm always happy to sign books for people. The catch is that I'm here in Australia, and lots of people who would like a signed copy are not. With
talk offline.
Heroes, we did a thing where we had a book plate. So I got Unbound sent.
Oh, that's a great idea.
This envelope of book plates that I signed and sent back to them, and they put the book plate in for anyone who paid a little extra to get the signed copy. I don't think we're doing that on this book, but I'm always, of course, happy to sign books for people if they can get it in front of me, or if I happen to have spare author copies and can sell them a copy, like with Shareware Heroes, which it's actually now out of print because the publisher's bankrupt. So the copies that I have left, I am happy to sign for people if they are willing to pay for shipping from Australia to wherever they are in the world. So I actually, one of the things I need to do this week is sign a copy for somebody who emailed me to say they'd like to buy a hardcover and requested I sign it. So absolutely, people can contact me and I will sign it. If people happen to meet me, I will sign it. I'll always happily do that.
Amazing. I think the side gig is going to be book plates. Richard, just stock up, say whatever, and then send your self-addressed stuff, stamped envelope. I think would just be the way that you did it. So that's awesome. So we want to thank you so much for your time. We're in different continents. We want to get you back to your day, but before we do, I want to ask a question to you in regards to you've talked a lot about video games from the past. Is there anything you're playing right now?
Yeah, I'm playing a couple of different games. And before I answer that, I'll just flag that we should briefly touch on the new documentary project before we go.
Absolutely.
So to answer the question, I am currently playing a championship manager game.
Nice.
Before
Football?
there was Football
Really?
Manager. Before there was Football Manager, Sports Interactive made the series called Championship Manager. And I got an old ThinkPad set up recently and want to put it through its paces. I put on Championship Manager 2001, 2002, and then just couldn't stop playing. So I've been playing that. And I'm also playing Day of the Tentacle Remastered on
fantastic
the
game.
PlayStation Vita, which actually connects to the other thing we've got to talk about before we go.
Look at this footage, folks. This is what we're talking about. Amazing.
Yeah, Championship Manager back in those days did not have graphics. The match engine was text.
Wow.
Text in a box, a colored box. The colors are defined by the colors on the shirts that the players are wearing in real life for that team, and that's the commentary that you would follow along.
There was an old video game that was all about wrestling, and they couldn't do footage. It was too old, so they had like little 3-second videos of what might happen if you choose to do like a body slam. So that was Wrestling Manager back in the day. So yeah, using your imagination is great. That's amazing. I love that. So with that, got a couple projects. We talked about one that might be coming very soon. We can't say more when you'll be able to play that, but very excited that you're not leaving documentaries, and your new project is close to my heart, and it involves a lot of people that love adventure games. So let's talk about our favorite adventure game engine,
Scum. Yeah. So after TerrorBytes, we wanted to keep the band together. We wanted to do a new gaming documentary, but we weren't really sure what to do. So I took a bit of time to think about it, came up with some ideas to share with the team, and we decided the thing that resonated the most as an idea that kind of fits with the creative VC demographic, if nothing else, like the people who are of a certain age, that's the kind of the audience we want to target, is people who are mid-30s and up, because they still like buying physical things. They might want to buy a Blu-ray to support us, because that's where we get most of our money, from selling Blu-rays. I love adventure games. I've always wanted to do a big project on adventure games, and I had this idea of, well, what if we did a documentary just about the Scum engine from LucasArts, and all the games that came out on that. So things like Monkey Island, The Secret of Monkey Island, Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge, The Curse of Monkey Island, Loom, Maniac Mansion, Sam & Max Hit the Road is a personal favorite of mine. Day of the Tentacle, I just mentioned before, Full Throttle, The Dig, a couple of Indiana Jones games, all these amazing adventures, point-and-click adventures, and also the humongous entertainment kids adventures like Freddy Fish.
Oh, that's right.
Putt Putt, Spy Fox, and Pajama Sam. They're wonderful games, those. I've actually been playing them with my 4-year-old daughter. Every week or two we're doing a new one, and she's loving them because they're so special. So I thought, let's do this for our next project. And people seeing on the screen here, if you're watching the video, Ron Gilbert has agreed to be in it, as have a few other people. We will be expanding that cast, of course. We're not going to get to 50, but the plan is to do 20 or 30 probably. And the catch is that this is something that's really niche, and we believe that it resonates with a lot of people, and we can see clearly that these games have a massive cultural legacy. They're fondly remembered so widely and by so many people. But we don't know if there's a viable audience in selling a documentary that's focused on on the Scum engine and games, and so we need proof. I've been told if we don't get clear signs that that people want us to make this thing, then it's not going to happen. They're not going to make it. I'll have to go and dig into this in a book or something, which I may do anyway one day. But I'd really like to do a documentary on this. I think it's overdue to get a documentary. So we need people to go to this website, scumdoc.com. That's SCUMM for anyone who's forgotten how to spell the Scum engine. It's not like you are Scum. It's Scum. That's the name of the toolkit that was created for Maniac Mansion. The script creation utility for Maniac Mansion, as it was.
I was just going to ask you. You have to spell it out so people know why did they choose that.
Yeah. So Passport to Adventure, the Scum story, is the name we landed on, and that's actually, for the super fans among you, that's a reference to a demo disc that LucasArts put out that had short demos for a few Scum adventures on it. I consulted with some people in the community on title ideas, and they said, this is the one. This has to be the one. So if people go to scumdoc.com, they can sign up for the waitlist / newsletter thing, and the more people we have on that, the more likely it is the project will go ahead. The goal is to get to at least 1,000. We're in the hundreds. I don't know what the number is right now, and it'll be higher by the time this goes out anyway. But we need people, if they want this thing to exist and if they would support it, we need them to sign up. And the perk is that you'll get updates emailed to you as we announce more cast and have more to share, and you'll get to help shape this thing. You'll get to sort of feed into the creative process of making it by telling us what stuff you remember from those days that you'd love us to dig into. Like, it's sort of a retrospective documentary with all these talking heads from the era. And so they're going to be talking about behind-the-scenes stories, similar to what we had on TerrorBytes and FPS and other documentaries that companies made. So people are reflecting on the era, and they're telling behind-the-scenes stories, but we can't cover everything in every game, so we have to choose. Are we going to talk about insult sword fighting from Monkey Island? Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. But what are the things that people want us to dig into? And that's one of the things I'll be hoping to get out of the people on that wait list, is some direction on what they would love, what they care the most about, and tell some of those stories, while also digging into some things that maybe they have never heard of. Like, there was this Scum University internal training program. Really cool. Wow. That's you get hired into LucasArts, and that's how you would learn to use the Scum toolset. You'd go through this kind of boot camp that they called Scum University, where they would train you in how the tool works, and you'd make some stuff. You'd make some little demo stuff. And that was actually the seed that led to Sam and Max Hit the Road. So there's lots of cool, interesting stories to dig into there. And it turns out, for 12 LucasArts adventure games and like 40 humongous games or something, there's over 200 distinct versions that came out. So
they had that transition, right, to edit voice.
I'm going to tell you right now,
the talkies,
I
so
subscribed.
Cool stuff.
This is awesome. This is awesome.
It was interesting because in one of the documentaries you had the Williams, or I think it was Ken Williams from obviously, yeah, and they're amazing. And I think of at the time, like King's Quest, Space Quest, they kind of got this moving forward, and the Scum engine was a big step forward because you weren't just randomly typing in words and hope you got it right. This was a combination of verbs and objects, and then you got music, and this was such a huge push in what made PC special at the time, I felt like, which is what I played so many of those games on, and it was just amazing. So I think there's a lot here, and it's going to be great to see who else you get, because there's certain creators that worked on a lot of games with Ron Gilbert who are huge, obviously, and have influenced everything, and Telltale obviously is kind of like that influenced Telltale to come up with Walking Dead. And we have that new game Dispatch, which is once again taking notes from that. So I think without these games, we would not be in the same type of storytelling in video games without these. So this is amazing. Once again, Richard needs your support. The work he's already done is amazing. And I was not at the beginning of any of your projects, but I can now get in the door. I've already signed up and I'm waiting to hear more information of when I can actually buy the special editions. I'm assuming there will be a signed edition by Richard, hopefully, and we don't have to worry about getting.
No, I am sending a book for you to sign, buddy. I am totally getting a signature. This has been a pleasure, Richard.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So, Richard, with that, we want to thank you for your time, your creativity. The project you've made have made us very happy. I think we need more projects in the world of video games to document the great work people have had before they pass away and aren't appreciated. So it's amazing that we get to see all those amazing people who basically made the hobby we love come alive. So thank you so much. Obviously, your writing, your production, your direction is what brought it to life. So you should be very proud of the awesome things you've made.
Well,
thank you.
The other part, Todd, is through your lore, you're giving the future generations of games, the builders and the creators and the people who create the storylines, you're giving them the lore to build off of. Thank you so much, man. You rock.
So Richard, we need to then tell people where they can find everything. Obviously, we're going to put all the notes, all of the socials, all of the sites to buy your stuff. But please tell people where you'd like to go to find out more about where they can buy and follow and support your projects.
Okay. To save us having a lot of links getting named right now, let's say you can go to my personal site, mossrc.me. That's mossrc.me. That has links to everything on it. And from there, you can get onto my book sites. I've got really cool DOS-themed site for Shareware Heroes, a Mac-style site for Secret History Mac Gaming. Bitmap sells Secret History Mac Gaming and the soccer book, A Tale of Two Halves. Shareware Heroes, I just recently put a digital edition back on sale on the internet, just through a PayHip storefront that I created. My documentaries, I've got links to them all on the site. And my Blue Sky, which is my main social media feed, I think I've got down the bottom. Yep, I've got that down the bottom. That's good. And the documentary Passport to Adventure, it would be great if you'll follow that on whatever your preferred social media is. Blue Sky is the one that I am personally running, but we have a presence on Instagram and Facebook, and we technically have an account on what used to be called Twitter. It's kind of a wasteland nowadays. But if that's where you are, then you can follow us on there by all means.
Do you have a Discord?
I do not have a Discord.
Okay.
I can be found on Discord. My username is MossRC, unsurprisingly, but I don't have a channel.
Well, very good. Well, this has been amazing.
I will find you.
Watch out for Sean. He's going to be sending you books and finding out more from you. So
you are awesome. You are awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
So with that, we are the Fandom Foundry. You can follow us on socials at the Fandom Foundry on Blue Sky, Instagram. We have a YouTube channel. We have a Discord. We're on all podcast services around the globe, and we have a website. So if you'd like to follow us there for more of these awesome interviews we had to do with awesome people like Richard, keep following along. Once again, we're so glad we get to connect our audience to the creators that make these amazing things. And with that, thank you, everyone. Have a great week, and we'll see you later.